So, like I said, we're going to be talking about PEMDAS. It is in order of your operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And you want to follow this particular order. Now, with multiplication and multiplication and division, addition and subtraction, you always move from left to right. People forget that all the time. They think multiplication always has to be performed before division, but that's not always the case. So for example, let's say you had something like, let me get a marker here. Ooh. Uh-oh. Let's say you had 8 divided by 2 times 4. So, what would you have to do first? Yes. It's yeah, so you're good. Okay. Yes. Okay, so you're going to have to do what first? Will you have to divide first or multiply first? You're going to have to divide first. Why? Because division comes before multiplication. You always read from left to right. Does that make sense? So I'm going to take 8 and I'm going to divide it by 2 and I get 4. And then I'm going to multiply it by 4 and I get what? 16. So even though it says multiplication, division, it's not always multiplication before division. It matters as far as what comes first. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so based on order of operations, what do we do first for that top problem? Yes. Yeah, you want to do the exponents first. So I'm just going to rewrite this. 12 times 3 plus 16 divided by 8. Okay, and based on what we talked about last slide, what operation do I perform first now? Multiplication, right. 12 times 3 is 36. Plus 16 divided by 8. Yep, I get the 2 from the 16 divided by 8. 36 plus 2 is in fact 38, right? Excellent. Okay. It's okay. I'm going to go ahead and perform the parentheses. I have 7 times 2 plus 6 squared divided by negative 3. Okay, and then what do? It's a division sign, by the way. Do I do exponents or multiplication next? Exponents. So I have 7 times 2 still, plus 36, divided by negative 3. And if you want to put parentheses there to separate that negative from the division sign, that is a good idea. So, now what do? Yes. So, yes, but I want to perform my operations left to right. So I have multiplication that comes first here. So I'm going to do 14 plus 36 divided by 3, which is negative 12. So when I do that, I get 2. Questions on that? No? Okay, last one on this page. What do you suppose I do to solve this problem? Yes?
Put the 2 plus 4 in parentheses divided by 1 parentheses and then end it, and then divide that.
Yeah, so you can think of it that way for sure. 2 and 4 make 6. 1 minus 5 make negative 4. That's perfect. And then I'm subtracting 1. Oops. Yeah, so that's right. So what do I have here? I have 6 divided by negative 4. Can that be reduced? Yes. So what goes into 6 and 4? 2. So 2 goes into 6 3 times, 2 goes into negative 4 negative 2 times, and then I'm subtracting 1, correct? Yeah. So now I have to subtract fractions, which everybody loves fractions. So we're going to go ahead and remind ourselves how to do that. How do I subtract 2 fractions? What do I have to get? Yes. Common denominator. So the number in the bottom has to be the same. So what do I want? How do I do that? Do you remember? What should I multiply that 1 by? Yes. 2 over 2. Perfect. So I'm going to multiply that 1 by 2 over 2. And I'm just changing the form, right? So this is now negative 3 over 2 minus 2 over 2, because I multiplied that 1 by 2 over 2. Do you have questions so far? All right. So when I take negative 3 minus 2, I get negative 5 over 2. Remember, I keep that denominator the same. So you can either write negative 5 over 2. How else could you write negative 5 over 2? Well, you don't want to switch it. You can turn it into a mixed fraction. How many times does 2 go into 5? Yeah, that's a mixed number. Yep, that's what we're going to be doing. So you say how many times 2 goes into 5. It goes in there 2 times. So I'm just going to rewrite this. With how many left over? 1, right? So 2 and 1/2. That bottom number is always going to be this bottom number right there. And then, of course, we have a negative in front. So this is my answer. Do you have any questions so far on order of operations or dealing with fractions? Yes?
Could you just leave the fraction and not make it a mixed number?
Yeah, if I don't say turn it into a mixed number, you're more than welcome to leave it an improper fraction. Okay. So, how did I get 1/6 at the start? Yes. Yeah, I just reduced 2/12. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 12 6 times. So the key here was reducing this fraction. Then, of course, I was able to add them. I kept that denominator the same, got 2/6. I reduced it, and I got 1/3. Why am I, on the second one, why am I multiplying it by 2 over 2 here and 3 over 3 here? Why am I doing that? Why am I multiplying each of those fractional values by 2 over 2 and 3 over 3? So I can get a common denominator, right? So I get 4/6 and I get 3/6. I subtract them and I get 1/6. Does anybody have any questions on those first two? Okay, now, how did I go from 1 2/3 to 5/3? So close. So this is a mixed number, right? Yep, perfect. I multiplied 1 by 3, and I got 3, and then I added, and I got 5, right? So you always take that big number, then you multiply it by the denominator, which is 1 times 3, and then you add that numerator right there, and then you get 3 plus 2, which is 5/3. And then, of course, I still have that 1/2. Then I want to get a common denominator again. 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 2 is 6. 10/6. And then I'm subtracting. 10/6 minus 3/6 is 7/6. I do not have to write that as a mixed number unless I say to. So you could, if you wanted to, you could say 6 goes into 7 one time with 1 left over, and then you want to put that 6 on the bottom. Do you have any questions? Are we moving too fast, or you understand everything? Good? Good. Good. Okay. Let's go ahead and finish this here. I'm dividing two fractions. What happens when I divide two fractions? I do what? How does it change?
You
Yes.
switch one of the numbers from upside down and then multiply instead.
Perfect. Yep. You multiply by that reciprocal. That's perfect. So you're going to take 1/3. Then you're going to multiply, and then you're going to flip the other one. Like that. Then you multiply straight across. 6 times 1 is 6. 3 times 5 is 15. Is that reduced? Is that reduced? No. So I can divide everything by what? 3, right. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 15 divided by 3 is 5. I get 2/5. It says find the reciprocal of the fraction above. What's the reciprocal of 2/5? 5/2, right, you just flip it. Reciprocal, you're just flipping the numbers around. So if I wanted the reciprocal of 4, for example, that reciprocal would be 1/4. Because I can always rewrite a whole number as a number over 1. Before we go to the next one, do you remember what 0 over a number is? Yeah, 0. Here's how I think of it. Anytime I have 0 over a number, that's okay. That's always going to get me 0. But if I have a number over 0, that's not okay. Does anyone remember what that is? So it's kind of like no solution, except we don't even know what the solution is. If it has a solution, if it doesn't have a solution, it's called undefined. So anytime you have a number over 0, which we do right here, then that's going to be undefined. Undefined. Do you have questions on that? Is anyone still writing? Okay, give you a little bit more time. So that top says, when can we split up a fraction? This is something that a lot of people forget, regardless of what math level you're in. And there's one rule that you have to keep in mind. You can always split up a fraction if the operation is on top. So, for example, if I have 5 plus 4 over 2, I can split that up into 5 over 2 plus 4 over 2. And then, of course, I can reduce that 4 over 2 to just 2. Does that make sense? Now, when can I not split up the fraction? I cannot split up the fraction if it was reversed. If I had 2 over 5 plus 4, that will not equal, and I put that slash through that equal sign, it will not equal 2/5 plus 2/4. Okay? So that's just something to keep in mind for the future, that if you ever have a fraction and you want to split it up to make the problem easier, you can do that, but the operation has to be on top, not on the bottom. Questions on splitting up fractions if you ever need to? Okay, here's the last one. So, what do you think? How do we solve this? What do we do first? Parentheses, right. So 6, let's see if you got this right, divided by 2 times 3. Now what do we do? Divide. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then 3 times 3 is 9. So if you got 9, you did well. What a lot of people did is they do 6 divided by 6. Okay, you don't want to do that because you want to go from left to right. Questions on that? Okay. I'm going to put this on the recording for anyone who's gone or needs to see it again. I'm going to give you a worksheet. This is due at the end of the period. Once you're finished, you come up to my desk and you check your answers with me. Then you have the